Train struck car that had stopped on tracks at crossing in Valhalla, killing vehicle's driver and 5 on board Metro North service. 6 people were killed when a commuter train collided with a car north of New York City on Tuesday night. A dozen more people were injured, authorities said. The northbound train struck a Jeep Cherokee at a railroad crossing in Valhalla, about 20 miles, 32 kilometers, north of New York City, Metro North Railroad spokesman Aaron Donovan said. The SUV's driver was killed along with 5 people on board the train, he said. The track gates had come down on top of the SUV, which was stopped on the tracks, the Metro North spokesman said. The driver got out to look at the rear of the vehicle, then got back in and had begun to drive forward when the train hit, he said. The train pushed the SUV about 10 train car lengths along the tracks and the front carriage caught fire. Passenger Stacy Eisnor, who was at the rear of the train, told NBC News that she felt the train jerk and then a conductor walked through explaining what had happened. She said her train car was evacuated about 10 minutes later using ladders to get people out. The rail passengers were moved to the rear of the train, which had left Grand Central Terminal about 45 minutes earlier. Passengers got off from the rear of the train. About 400 of them were taken to a local rock climbing gym for shelter. Buses were sent to pick them up and take them to their destinations. Service on a portion of Metro North's Harlem line was suspended.
In a small apartment in a Delancey Street housing project, 6 brothers and 1 sister were raised in near total isolation from the rest of the world, thanks to an apparently megalomaniacal Luftmensch of a father and a deeply passive mother. They were, however, allowed to watch thousands upon thousands of movies, which they can reenact in startling detail. Each sibling is reed thin, with jet black hair that hangs down around their respective waists. All of this sounds like the makings of a fantastic documentary, which, incidentally, it was. The Angalo clan became the subject of the Wolf Pack, which last week took home the Grand Jury Prize for Best U.S. documentary at Sundance. The Angalos were rarely allowed outside, but it was during one of their rare forays into society that they met filmmaker Crystal Moselle, who spent the next several years getting to know the siblings and compiling snapshots of their cloistered lives, from which the Wolf Pack was born. It looks like a fascinating film, based on Moselle's voluminous interviews, though frustratingly, there appear to be no clips available anywhere on the internet. Why? No theatrical trailers. No snippets. Nothing. The Angalos, who along with their mother did travel to Sundance, appear uninterested in interviews, declining to speak to the Times last week.
No shot, no botch.
I was looking for a way to join one of the militias fighting against ISIS over a year ago because NATO wasn't really taking any action as ISIS grew. They said it was an Iraqi problem, and that didn't sit well with me, especially after all the blood that was shed here by. I'm former military, so my brothers in arms, they paid their lives for Iraq to be a free democracy. I think when you come to a place like this, you have to make a decision that you may not make it back. You come knowing what you're getting into, so you have to make that decision when you come here that, yeah, something may happen to you, unfortunately, but you have to know what you came for, what passion you came for. Probably the biggest difficulty is the language barrier. When you are in battle or the rounds are flying, people are shooting at you, you need to be able to communicate where you're going, what you're doing to your comrades, and so that sometimes becomes an issue. I'm not going back till the fight's finished and ISIS has been crippled.
Jordan says it has executed 2 al-Qaeda prisoners at dawn on Wednesday. Ambulances surrounded by heavy security carried the 2 bodies from a Jordanian prison about 50 miles south of Amman. The executions come just hours after Islamic State militants released video purporting to show a captured Jordanian pilot locked in a cage and being burned to death. One of the executed prisoners, Sajida al-Rishawi, had been sentenced to death for her role in a 2005 triple hotel bombing that killed 60 people in Amman. The Islamic State militants had demanded her release in exchange for the pilot. Jordan refused to make the trade because the militants did not produce proof that the pilot was still alive. Sandy Kozel, The Associated Press.